Okay, so I'm just going to let that soak in a bit. It's just down to the horizon line. It's up to you what sort of sky you want. So get the next size brush. I'm going to use a little bit of Payne's Grey, of course, because I'm going to have it a little bit grey and stormy because it's going to produce those big waves. And in that, I'm just going to put a little bit of ultramarine. So it is a bit blue as well. And then when you've got the color that you want, you don't want it too dark. Or if you're Veronique, you probably do want it dark because she likes painting with dark colors. Anyway, so I'm starting off in the left corner and I am wiggling my brush. And I don't want it close to the lighthouse, and come from the other corner. I'm wiggling it about because I want it to look like there's a cloud, and then I'm going to bring it that dark down a bit along the horizon. Leave a good gap between it and the lighthouse because that's going to be filled up with foam and stuff. That's about where I want. I'm just going to draw that line along flat. That's it. And that's all there is to it for the sky. Unless you want to put anything else, and if you want to put a little bit raw sienna in or anything like that, but I thought just some clouds, that's going to be nice. I've got a big bloom there, and if I dry that without picking some of that water up, it will look a mess. So I'm just gently touching it with the tip of my brush and then wiping the brush, and it's pulled the water up. And now I'm going to dry. I'm going to mute whilst I dry. It's still wet a bit at the top, but that's fine. I'm not going to be painting over at the top. So we've got sky. Again. I've mixed some sea colour, and we're just going to, I'm going to put in up carefully, not go into that sky. You could actually use tape to make sure you don't. And I'm going to blend that in now. getting lighter as I go towards. And then with just clean water, just blend it into nothing really. So you've got a sort of a mini graduated wash. And then the same coming down a little bit, just with clean water, just go into the paint that you've got and just pull it down a bit. And then I've loaded my brush again. So I've sort of got a dark bit, a light bit, and then a dark bit, and I'm leaving a bit of a gap there. And then I'm going to do the same with clean water and just pull that down a bit. So it's all blended in and you haven't got sharp edges. And then right at the bottom, we want some dark water in there. Again, don't go right up to those cliffs. Not at this stage, because we're... So that's about it. I've got a nice gap there. Can always darken it up a bit. I've just put a little bit more dark on the top there, right over in the left, just to... That's fine, that's running together and bleeding and mingling and merging. And you should have a little bit of that paint left because that's going to be our water crushing about, as is the grey. Oh, I've used a mix of Payne's Grey and Luna Black, and I'm going to start with this rock here. It's sitting on a fairly solid base. So I'm using my rigger and just making a solid dark base for it to sit on. And this viewing point here, although I wouldn't want to be here at this point in time because the waves, this is also fairly solid, but that also disappears into the mist of the crashing waves. And at this point, you can also put in the railing. So I'm not finishing it off, I'm just leaving it hanging. And again, with a piece of paper, she says, what have I just done with that bit? I'm just fuzzing that end there because I just want that to disappear off into the wave. And this one as well. So it's clean water on the end and just fuzzing it away and using your tissue to wipe away. Right. I'm just pulling that down a bit. And then we're going to start with the cliff rock. So I'm wiggling down. It's a fairly weak mix. I have put quite a bit of water on my brush. And it's not a solid application of paint. I've left gaps in it. And then I'm just pulling it down in lines because there's water streaming down this bit as well. So where you're getting close to where it's coming over the rock here, it needs to be sort of sketchy in places. So I've done lines, I've done a few dots of dark, and I've used the water bit of it so that and I'm just with a clean brush, I'm just softening out those lines a bit, not so that they all merge in together, but just going up and down on them and then just leaving it, because you've got to think the water is coming over here and it's going to be not only just going in that little channel that we're putting it in, but it's also going to be splashing over this way and again with this one. So you can make the left corner of the rock a lot darker because there's no water there. I've just gone in and just done a few shapes there so that it say right, that bit there, that rock, that portion there is not being covered in mist, and that it can be the right, it can be the full color. And we're going to do the same over on this one. So I'm coming down with quite a good strong mix of black. Then I'm into the water, clean water, and spreading that out a bit, but not in a block. We've got water coming down here as well, this other side. So this is a double one. So with a very weak mixture, I'm just coming down this side, the left side of here, leaving in lines so that it looks as if I've got water splashing onto here. And give it a right, hang on a minute. Okay, so I'm now going to just do this, the last rock and this one here, and see that the water is coming right over the top of it, so we don't see its top. So with a fairly weak mixture, I'm just coming down. It's almost like dry brushing because I want it to look like water is whooshing down there, and then I left a bit of a space. And that's all you need to do. So I'm just using the brush on the side. It's quite dry. The paint is not very strong, but my brush is very dry, and I'm just wiping it on the side, pulling it down. It's gone too dry now. If your brush is too damp, just dab it on a bit of tissue, and that will probably help you do that. I didn't like how I started that, so right, Laurel is just coming in. I just got rid of that nasty ridge. And we're at that point where we have done the rocks, and we will then have to do the water. So we're dry. Oh, and you need a tissue. I've wet my brush and I'm dabbed it a couple of times on the tissue, 3 times. I'm going into the paint with the brush perpendicular and loading it as I push down. Whether this does the brush any harm, I don't know. So just above the horizon, just smudge it, and then with your finger push out so you get a little faint splotch that fades, and you do it again. I'm going up, so I've sort of pulled it out in going around in a circle, like that. Out, 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 out. And I'm going to go into the darker grey, and I'm just going to do that there. And again, with my finger, I'm just going to pull it out. You see how you're getting shadows in that mist that is forming? We're doing this. Right, so let's go into the really dark that we had, loading it exactly the same way. And I'm going to come down the rock and just out a bit and just put some there, and just rub it with your finger. That will dry quite quickly. Wash my brush, dabbed it 3 times, and then loading it with the green again, the other side, over the cloud and the horizon, and close up to the lighthouse. And again, dabbed it, pull it out. I'm going to go into the darker one, and I'm going to dab that in between those 2 rocks there, and just pull it out. It's almost going to be drying as you do it. I'm going to go over that side, right over to the right. Right, clean my brush. Right, load up with the sea green. And put it above the second rock. You're going to have more light in the wave splashes up here than the ones down at the bottom of the rocks. So we've nearly done that part of it. Going to the dark. So there's just a bit down here, and I'm running out of sea colour. Didn't do enough. Right. So I need to just do a bit at the top here. But before I do that, I just want to soften that edge. So I've got clean water on the brush now, and just rubbing at that edge with the brush, and then with my tissue mopping it up so that that hard edge that I managed to leave has disappeared. And that one as well. I don't want that one there. So it's exactly the same. So I'm going to make a little bit more of the sea colour. So that's ultramarine. I don't need much, but I need more than I've got. And some sap green. That's that. Now you can, two ways on this. You can either use a liner, or very carefully the tip of this one, of the bigger one. Oh, and you need some splashes down the bottom here. So with a darker mix, come down the bottom and fill in there's some little bits of a hole around that just there, and I just filled it in, and I used the slightly darker mix. And now we're going to try and do the water rushing over the rocks. So with that sea green and your rigger, I'm just going to do some lines. My brush isn't that wet, so they're broken. So it's dry brushing really. So I'm putting my brush on and wiggling it. It's dry brushing, and it's hoping the paper takes off what it wants. The same with this side. So I've loaded my brush, it's on its side, and I'm just pulling it down. Just think about where water would go. I've got a bit of a bump there in the rock face, so I'm just using that to guide me, and so I'm going backwards and forwards and pulling it down at the same time. And on this one as well. I've got, so it's on its side. And that joins up to the splashing stuff up above. And then just because I think I can, I'm just going to, oh yeah, I'm just going to do a big wave up there. I shouldn't want to be out in it. That's about it for, oh, just a bit down the bottom here. So I'm going to have a bit darker. Stippling, I think that's it, stippling. So I stippled down the bottom there and then pushed it out of the center so that it looks like it's washing away. Okay. So basically, we want some of that Payne's grey again. And we're going to do the lighthouse. Under its roof, there is a shadow of neat Payne's grey. Under its little walkway bit, there is a shadow of Payne's grey. Underneath one of the bands is a shadow, so that's a thicker one, and then you want a very thin one just above it. And that's got a shadow, and that's got a shadow. And you can do the railing walkway with its fence posts. Do the light itself with its metal structures coming down and its lattice work. On the lamp. With a light mixture of the Payne's grey, paint half its little roof dark, and then just use clean water to move it across, because it's in a bit of shadow. So it's half of it is dark and the other half is just a lighter grey. So I just used a clean brush and just pulled it across. So you've got shadow that side, light that side. I've got some windows, so I'm going to paint two little marks there for those windows. Those are going to be in the red, as it were. I've got a little bit of a stick standing up there. That can be painted in. Oh, and it's lightning thing at the top there. And we're going to shadow the right side now. So I've changed to a bit bigger brush. Which is a number 4 round. And with that Payne's grey, I'm making, this is in shadow. So it's coming down the right side. And I'm going to, with clean water on the brush, I'm just going to blur that in a bit. And the next one up is red. So we're not going to do that one yet. So we're going to do this. That one. So again, it's going to be blurred in a bit. And then I'm going to do exactly the same for that top one. I think probably my windows haven't dried enough. No, never mind. Now I've got a very marked line there, so I've just blotted it out, and then I've blotted all the rest of it out. I don't know where the door is for this. Obviously it hasn't got one. Then we need to sort out the red. So you need a dark red, mucky red almost. Not bright and not brown. Not brown. So that's what I'm going with. And you paint that in the same way. So down the right side, leaving the windows. So I painted round those windows. Then, so I painted half of it. Clean brush, clean water, and pull it across on the left. So it's sort of graduated. Now I've managed to get some water splashes on my lighthouse, which I was quite pleased. So I'm going to leave them there, and I have actually painted round them. You can see where I've got a little bit just there. I managed to, so it's sort of splashed on the front of it. And just giving that a bit of outline there. Again, I've got water splashes on the coming over the front, so I'm trying to miss those. There, I'm just darkening up that edge there, that left edge. Otherwise, it just disappears into nothing. And the same with this one, because once we take off these pencil marks, you won't see the edge. And I'm darkening up the shadow. On the right side. You can always blot it up a bit with your tissue. Tissues are very useful. What else do we need? That's about it, I think. We need, with the dark color that you had go back in, and you need some birds. Remember, birds are flat. And in this weather, they're going to have a job flying, so they'll be all over the place. Right. I'm redoing those windows as they disappeared, and I'm just redoing the shadow lines on the lighthouse. And birds, shadow lines, windows. And the metal bits that hold the light in place, and underneath its cap. That's it, I think. Oh, I just need one bit there as it disappears. As I said, you don't want to be standing there looking at the view. Now, I think